Something feels different coming out of Foxborough right now, and this is not just normal off-season noise. Behind the minicamp comments, the quiet signings, and those old Mike Vrabel connections, a message is starting to show itself. The Patriots are building layers, not just chasing headlines. The defense may have landed a mentor who can change Craig Woodson's future. The pass rush may still have a door cracked open. Josh McDaniels got another short-yardage battle piece, and Drake Maye may be about to feel the full force of A.J. Brown. Drop in the comments what New England's next move should be, because today's read is loaded with behind-the-scenes stuff. The most interesting part of Kevin Byard arriving is not only the resume, even though that resume is serious. We are talking about a 32-year-old safety, a third-round pick back in 2016, stops with the Titans, Eagles, and Bears, 164 regular season games, the NFL leader in interceptions last year with Chicago, and now a one-year deal with New England. That alone makes you pay attention. But the real behind-the-scenes angle is different. The Patriots did not just bring in a veteran starter. They brought a living memory of opposing offenses into that room. Scott Booker basically gave you that exact read at minicamp. When he says Byard has seen it all, that he has faced the quarterbacks and most of the coordinators New England is going to see, that is not just some empty coach praise. He is talking about value that does not show up in the highlight reel. The value of recognizing intent before the ball ever leaves the quarterback's hand. West Coast systems, Brian Daboll, Joe Brady, formation variations, little coordinator tendencies, all of that becomes information for a secondary that was already young, fast, and dangerous. Then Craig Woodson steps into the picture. The kid from Cal was an instant starter, picked off a pass in the divisional round against Houston, and then played like a grown man in the Super Bowl. That is not a small thing. But there is a real jump between surviving as a talented rookie and starting to control the board as a complete defender. Woodson himself admitted Byard can help him see things and make the game slow down even more. That line is gold, because a good safety can run. A special safety anticipates. There is also a locker room detail that may seem small, but it says a lot. Byard took number 31, Woodson switched to number 4, and everybody moved forward. On a roster that just won a Super Bowl, poorly handled ego can turn into noise really fast. Here the read feels like the opposite. A veteran arriving with respect, a young player accepting the adjustment, and the two of them may be becoming a duo that mixes fresh instinct with an 11-year NFL library. Do not forget the money side either. $10 million for 1 year. For a defender who does not look like he has physically fallen off and is already working with the starting defense in the spring, is exactly the kind of move that does not scream on signing day but can change a season later. Especially because Byard already has history with Vrabel, already crossed paths with Booker in Tennessee, and now steps into a building where the defensive language does not feel foreign. To me, this signing is starting to feel like more than a replacement for Jalen Hawkins, who went to Baltimore. It feels like a direct investment in Woodson's growth, and if Woodson was already able to shine without that kind of guide next to him, imagine what happens when he starts reading the field with the calm of somebody who knows where the play wants to be born. That is when New England gets dangerous, when young talent gets the map before everyone else even realizes the road opened. And look at how one story talks to the next. If Byard is the veteran who speeds up the reads on the back end, the edge conversation is about a different kind of maturity. Who closes the game when the pocket starts moving? Who forces the quarterback to throw early? Who turns good coverage into a desperate pass? Mike Vrabel was asked at minicamp if the Patriots need more edge rushers, and he answered the way coaches usually answer at this time of year. He said the group is good, said he is excited about Draymond Jones, about the development of Elijah Ponder and Braden Swinson, mentioned Jesse Luketa and the young guys, and left the door slightly open by saying the team keeps looking at every position. Publicly, that is perfect. Internally, the question does not just go away. Because Harold Landry is still dealing with an ankle injury, Jesus has not participated in practices, and training camp does not forgive a room that looks full on paper, but gets tight once bodies start pushing back. Ponder and Swinson may have impressed in the spring. Great. New England needs that jump. But spring is controlled rhythm. The season is a completely different song. That is where Jadeveon Clowney becomes hard to ignore. Not as a savior, not as some 2014 star frozen in time, but as a piece that still has something real to offer. He is entering his 13th season, has played for 7 teams over the last 8 years, and still posted at least 5.5 sacks in 4 of the last 5 seasons. Last year, in 13 games with the Cowboys, he had 8.5 sacks, his highest total since 2017. For a player entering his age 33 season, That tells you the situational burst is still alive. And the behind-the-scenes name here is Vrabel. He knew Clowney in Houston when he was the Texans linebackers coach. Later, as head coach of the Titans, he brought him to Tennessee in 2020. That year, Clowney played 8 games, had 19 tackles and 6 quarterback hits. It was not a monster season, but it built history, shared language, and real working familiarity. The read for New England is simple and practical. Testing that market could cost little and tell you a lot. If Clowney accepts a team-friendly deal, he can be instant rotation depth, injury insurance, and a reference point for young players still learning how to turn physical traits into a real rush plan. If the juice is not there anymore, camp reveals that fast. But if it is, the Patriots add a pass rusher used to big games without wrecking the budget. Vrabel saying he is satisfied does not end the conversation. Coaches protect the group in June. But protecting the group does not mean you stop looking for an edge. After winning a Super Bowl, the difference between defending the title and getting comfortable can live in those short bets, the moves that do not come with a parade, the ones that end up turning a third down into a New England possession. Then we move away from the big name and into the kind of detail coaches absolutely love. Reggie Gilliam did not arrive to become a national headline, and maybe that is exactly why this signing deserves attention. When the Patriots already had Jack Westover and Brock Lampy on the 90-man roster, adding another fullback early in free agency does not feel random. 3 years, $10.8 million, top of the depth chart at the position, and a pretty clear message. Josh McDaniels wants more heavy tools and more variation in the offensive package. But Gilliam is not that old-school fullback who just stands still and crashes into the A-gap. In Buffalo, even with the nickname Sledge, he was more interesting as a moving piece. Motion, outside zone, blocking into the second level, pre-snap adjustment. That changes the face of a two-back formation because it forces the defense to declare its intent. If the linebacker follows, you reveal coverage. If the defense loads up against the run, play action opens. It is behind-the-scenes detail, but that is how good drives are created, and the numbers tell a story that fits perfectly with what New England needs to fix. Buffalo averaged 4.9 yards per carry out of two-back packages with Gilliam on the field last season. The Patriots, in those formations, sat at 3.1 yards and negative EPA per rush. That gap is not just a nice stat. It is the difference between 2nd and 5 and 2nd and 8, between selling play action with a real threat and asking Drake Maye to pretend the defense believes it. Gilliam also helps in areas that do not show up in fantasy football. He was an important piece in the Bills' tush-push, driving behind Josh Allen on sneaks, while New England sat closer to the middle of the league in those situations. And on special teams, he recorded 13 tackles last season, while also blocking on the kickoff return unit. For a roster trying to repeat as champions, depth is not a luxury. It is basic maintenance. The part I want to see is the final fit. Gilliam has only 8 career carries for 14 yards, so nobody should treat him like the short yardage rushing solution with the ball in his hands. His value is opening angles, cleaning up reads, giving the defense a false clue, and handing McDaniels one more lever. War room in the comments. If you were building this offense, would you use Gilliam more as a moving blocker, a play-action piece, or a short yardage weapon? Because this kind of player does not change the newspaper cover, but he can absolutely change the rhythm of an entire Sunday. Then we get to the move that needs no translation for anybody inside the AFC. A.J. Brown in New England changes the temperature of the room. But Richard Sherman's comment added another layer to the story, because he did not treat the trade like a simple star pickup. He looked at the whole context. The Patriots just played in the Super Bowl. Drake Maye is already one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league, and Brown arrives as the accelerator that can turn growth into dominance. Sherman said straight up that the AFC should be tougher, but he still sees New England in the fight in 2026. That is the part a lot of people outside Foxborough keep trying to avoid. The Patriots are not adding Brown to a lost offense with no identity, praying for a miracle. They are putting a physical, dominant receiver with an emotional tie to the coach on top of a foundation that already carried the team to the biggest stage. The behind-the-scenes part Sherman touched on is strong. The reunion with Mike Vrabel. He remembered that Vrabel never wanted to trade Brown in Tennessee, that it was a front office decision, and that the Titans were never the same after that. That matters, because when a player lands somewhere the coach already truly believes in him, the adjustment changes. It is not just the playbook. It is old trust, accountability without awkwardness, and respect built before the contract ever reached the table. And Brown, through that read, arrives excited with the right attitude, like someone going to a destination that actually makes sense. That matters in a locker room that just won and still has to avoid getting comfortable. A champion that adds hungry talent becomes dangerous. a champion that adds satisfied talent becomes a risk. The gap is massive. In minicamp practices, Maye and Brown already showed an instant connection. Of course, the real test comes when the heat of training camp tightens, when the defense starts playing more physically, when timing has to survive pressure, contact, and coverage adjustments. But the first signal is exactly what you wanted to see. A young quarterback, the league MVP runner-up, coming off 4,394 yards, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, plus 450 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground, now getting a weapon that changes the defensive math before the snap. This is where New England can make a jump that does not only show up on the depth chart. Brown pulls a safety. Brown forces help. Brown makes corners play scared of losing inside and outside. That opens space for Romeo Doubs, for Demario Douglas, for Mac Hollins, for the tight end, for the run game, for McDaniels to sell one thing and attack another. The offense stops needing perfect execution on every snap and gains a piece that creates margin. To me, Sherman saw it clearly. This feels like a fantastic trade because it lines up need, talent, relationship with the coach, and the quarterback's moment. Maye was already rising without that kind of true number one target. Now with Brown, the question is not whether the Patriots can be good on offense. The question is how many defenses can survive when New England starts forcing an impossible choice. Double the monster outside or let Drake Maye spread the punishment across the rest of the field. Put it all together, and the message out of Foxborough does not feel random. Byard is not just a reinforcement, he is an intelligence transfer for Woodson. Clowney, if it turns into a real conversation, would be the kind of advantage check a champion has to make before camp. Gilliam shows McDaniels working the small gears of the offense, and I.J. Brown with Drake Maye is the visible punch, the one the whole league is going to feel. This script points to a Patriots team that is deeper, smarter, and less dependent on one single answer. If you agree with that read, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment. What piece does New England still need to finish this plan?